calculus in the IB, I want you to understand kind of our goal, okay? IB recognizes that we're not spending a ton of time learning all the ins and outs of calculus, okay? For the IB, our understanding of calculus needs to be a working knowledge of the tools and strategies that are available, okay? We need to be able to do some things by hand. We need to be able to use our technology as well. However, there is not a huge emphasis placed on all the theory behind it, okay? And this is where calculus in the IB is different than calculus like for AP. AP, you've got to know how to do derivatives using the definition and then also using the different rules. You've got to be able to do integrals using Riemann sums or the trapezoid rule or other different formulas and things that you learn, okay? With the IB, they don't really care how you get to your answer as long as it's valid and as long as you can get there, okay? It's more about interpreting which strategy you need to use in a given situation and then being able to execute that strategy. And that's why if you look at the formula booklet, let me bring that up here. And we've got it, the rubric. Oh, I don't have it standalone here. Let me go back to the class website because I don't have it there. Okay, if you look at the formula booklet under the calculus, it's actually a pretty big section. Okay, there's a pretty big section for calculus. Here they have the definition of a derivative. Then they have all these derivative rules, including the chain rule, product rule, quotient rule. They have basic integrals, the formulas for those. These are all things, if you were doing AP, you'd have to memorize, okay? Now, with derivatives in particular, this first chapter, this first unit of calculus that we're looking at here, you'll notice we're doing chapters 14 and 15 in the book, okay? The test at the end of this unit is not an IB test, okay? It's a test I've written. It's not going to be curved like the IB. But basically, it's just, here's a function, get the derivative. Here's a function, get the derivative. You know, it's a lot of just that because while you don't necessarily have to have it all memorized because you have the formula booklet, if you're having to go back to the formula booklet for every little thing, you're never going to finish in your IB exam, okay? So, and also, notice the notation here. You've got to understand the notation, all right? But the more you know from memory, the easier the second section, curve sketching and applications, will be, okay? And then, of course, the integration we're doing as well, okay? So, this unit here specifically, I'm going to have you memorizing things that you aren't necessarily going to have memorized in the end, but you really ought to do your best to memorize as much of it as possible, okay? So that's kind of where we're headed the remainder of the year and kind of the idea behind, you know, how is calculus a little bit different as we study it in the IB as opposed to the way it's studied in AP. AP has an entire year to go over this stuff. We've got 3.5 months. Okay, so obviously they go through it a lot more in depth. So we're going to start with one of the 3 pillars of calculus. The 3 basic pillars of calculus are limits, derivatives, and integrals. Okay? And we're starting here with limits because limits are actually, you could even say, the foundation beneath the pillars. Because both derivatives and integrals have their derivation from the limit. Okay? So it's important to understand the concept of the limit in order to properly understand the derivative and the integral. Now, I will say this. Limits by themselves are not a huge part of the exam, okay? However, understanding how limits work is going to be very important in order to properly understand derivatives and integrals, okay, to be able to do those. Now,